Most people think the hardest part of the LSAT is logical reasoning, but reading comp is actually the real silent killer. It looks harmless because you've been reading your whole life, but on the LSAT, it's a trap. And if you've ever read a whole passage and realized you remember nothing, if you ever guessed on all 5 questions in a row because they all sounded kind of right, you're not alone. And the solution is not to do 50 more passages and hope something magically clicks. That almost never works. Reading comp becomes beatable only when you change how you approach it. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how. The wild thing is that there's a hidden pattern in every single reading comp passage, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. So today, I'm going to walk you through that pattern step by step so you can stop feeling foggy, stop bouncing between two choices that both sound kind of good, and start treating reading comp like a game you actually know how to win. And if reading comp has ever made you think, I guess I'm just not a good reader, I want you to stay with me because it's never about your reading ability. It's about your mental model. Now, for your whole life, you were trained to read where you read slowly, you absorb every detail, you don't skim, and you treat every sentence like it matters equally. That is great for textbooks, but it is terrible for the LSAT because LSAT reading comp is not about absorbing information. It is about detecting structure. The LSAT is asking you to do the same 3 things over and over. Answer, what is the author trying to do? Who's arguing with who else and about what? And can you ignore 80% of the details and still understand the passage? Every reading comp passage is an argument, even when it sounds neutral, even when it looks like just background. The author is basically a lawyer in disguise. They're choosing what to emphasize, what to minimize, sharing who sounds credible, and sharing what seems outdated. And your job is not to memorize. Your job is to watch the strategy. Now, almost every single LSAT passage has the same 3 roles. You've got Scholar A or Group A, Scholar B or Group B, and then the author themselves. Scholar A proposes something, Scholar B critiques it or offers an alternative, and then the author of the passage either sides with one, refines both, or says, here's what everybody missed. And your only job here is to track who believes what. For example, some researchers believe that might be Group A, then they say, however, critics argue, that's Group B. Then we have this suggests that, which is the author stepping out with their viewpoint. And once you read with this lens, the passage stops feeling like a bunch of random facts and it starts feeling like a debate. Every passage is like a little courtroom. It's on a textbook chapter, not a Wikipedia article, but a courtroom because, of course, this is the law. Now, we've also got, of course, paragraphs and the passage skeleton. And most people read every paragraph with equal attention. That's why nothing sticks. But on the LSAT, you're not reading for details. You're reading to build a mental map. Each paragraph has a job. Background, theory A, a critique of A, then theory B, then the author's conclusion, and maybe some evidence or elaboration on that conclusion. And your job, while you're reading, is to label each paragraph's job, nothing more. So when you're reading paragraph 1, you want to slow down, read more carefully. They're setting the stage. You want to ID the topic and the terms of the debate. Then for the remaining paragraphs, you use targeted skimming. You read the first few sentences, pause and ask yourself, what is this paragraph doing? And you slow down only when a new scholar appears, a new theory appears, a critique appears, or the author reveals a viewpoint. Then you speed up when the paragraph is providing examples or they're elaborating on points you already tagged. So as you go, you want to build a tiny skeleton outline for each paragraph in the passage. Then, of course, you've got the questions. And there are 5 big categories. You've got main point, author's attitude, specific detail, function or purpose, and inference. Main point, attitude, those are general, global. Those are meant to be gimmies. Of course, they're not always that easy. The detailed ones referencing specific lines, you go back to the passage to find the support. But inference requires a bit more reading between the lines, a little bit more subtle, a little bit more nuanced, a little bit trickier. We're going to focus more on those today. Then you've got, of course, trap pattern wrong answers like the extremes, half-truths, and outside knowledge. Of course, extremes like always, never, must, entirely, probably too strong. The passage almost never talks this way. Then you've got half-truth answers that are distortions. The first half looks good, but the second half is where it goes off the rails. Then you've got ones that bring in outside knowledge, out of scope, going too far. You knock those out as well. Then there's timing. You've got 35 minutes for 4 sets, about 9 minutes each. I recommend typically 3 minutes to read the passage and build the skeleton, then 6 minutes on the questions themselves. When you're reading, you're finding the major viewpoints, labeling each paragraph's job, spotting the author's opinion, and sketching out the skeleton. Then during the questions, you ID the question type, jump to the right part of the passage, and knock out the wrong answers actively. And of course, because logic games are off the test, reading comp and logical reasoning are the remainder of your score. They are everything, and of course, reading comp is just 1/3, but even logical reasoning is still reading comp in disguise. And so the drills we do today are going to be like mini reading comp passages, maybe look similar to logical reasoning, because of course, the entire test is truly a test of reading comprehension. Today, we're going to focus more on inference questions because those are a little bit harder, and the entire test is testing your ability to read between the lines. And so we're going to jump in for today. Wordplay Wednesday is the theme of the class, focused on reading comprehension specifically. And before we get there, though, I've got something to share. My dog was barking yesterday, and so I wanted to share with you my dog since someone asked to meet him. His name is Rafiki. He's at this point now about 7 years old. He was a little bit younger when this photo was taken. He's super sweet, but his bark is worse than his bite for sure. So whenever anyone's delivering packages, you might hear him in the background. Little fun for that. All right, on to question number 1. This is an easy one. That's why we have a green circle here. Donna swaps frantic summary checks with Lewis during a late night scramble to keep partner chaos contained as their usual rhythm shifts into a peculiar pressure-driven routine. Which one of the following is most strongly supported by the passage? A, Donna dramatically refuses to help Lewis with summaries. B, Donna and Lewis both handle summary checks. C, Lewis alone theatrically handles summaries while Donna avoids work. Or D, no summary checks involve Donna and Lewis together ever. When you have your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark, but do commit to some answer. So again, A, B, C, or D, which is most strongly supported? Most likely to be the case based on the information in the passage. This is kind of like a soft must be true in logical reasoning, meaning it is incredibly likely based on the information in the passage. Linfully says B, Michael says B, Zakiah says B, Autumn says B, Passion says B. Fantastic, the answer is in fact B. Donna and Lewis both handle summary checks. Fantastic, of course, because Donna and Lewis are swapping the checks, meaning they're both doing them. They're just trading, they're exchanging, but they're both handling them. Awesome, folks, well done. On to number 2. L handles the glittery draft reviews, while Paulette quietly notes every filings assistant step, all under a legally blonde haze meant to prevent another pink-coated meltdown. Which one of the following is most strongly supported by the passage? A, Paulette flamboyantly ignores the filing assistant steps throughout. B, no one theatrically notices any filing assistant steps whatsoever. C, Paulette notes each step of the filing assistant by the filing assistant. Or D, the filing assistant rampages unchecked with 0 notes recorded. When you have your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark. We've got some folks dropping answers here. I'll of course, give you all another minute to work through it. If you're not sure, if you have no prephrase, of course, which you may not, since this is a pretty open-ended question, you want to work by process of elimination. So if you're considering A, for example, is there anything suggesting that Paulette is ignoring the steps? No, we have no indication of her ignoring. In fact, she is quietly noting, which of course lines up with choice C as in Charlie. Paulette notes. Paulette notes in choice C, and she also notes at the beginning of the second line here. So the answer is in fact C. Well done, folks. I see Linfully, Michael, Passion, Autumn all got C. C is in fact the answer. Well done. On to number 3. Jessica oversees the loan schedule approval in a careful suits morning, forwarding each approved page to Howard before one editor quietly tidies everything to avoid hallway panic. What is most strongly supported by the passage? A, one editor tidies every approved page after Howard. B, several editors dramatically fight over tidying each approved page. C, no editor touches the approved pages after Howard ever. Or D, Jessica secretly skips forwarding, leaving Howard blissfully uninvolved. When you have your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark. So again, if you're not sure, if you're lost, just work by elimination, knock out what you can. Whatever remains, hopefully will be the answer. And so C, for example, saying no editor touches the approved pages after Howard ever. Is that in the passage that no editor touches them? No, in fact, we have one editor quietly tidying everything to avoid panic. So one editor tidying lines up, of course, with choice A, matches up pretty well. A ton of folks got it. Linfully, Autumn, Zakiah, Michael, Passion, all saying A. Well done. The answer is, in fact, choice A. On to number 4. Lewis never races through report processing faster than any analyst, and assistants trail them both in a better call saw blur, meant only to keep the office temperature from rising. What is most strongly supported? A, Lewis consistently outpaces every analyst in processing reports dramatically. B, assistants quietly process reports fastest while analysts wander. C, all three groups process reports at exactly identical speeds. Or D, analysts process reports faster than Lewis and assistants. When you have your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark. Giving folks a minute here. This one's a little bit tougher. See somebody said A. We have other folks saying D. So we've got here Autumn saying D, Zakiah saying D, Michael saying D, Linfully saying D. Awesome. Yeah, it took a second, but I think we're there. Yes, the answer is in fact D as in Delta. A little bit tricky, of course, because we have both analysts and assistants, both starting with the letter A, of course. We have assistants trailing them both, meaning the assistants may be slower and the analysts may be faster. We also know Lewis never races faster than any analyst, so the analyst is tied or perhaps faster than Lewis. So D is the best answer, most supported. Remember, this is a soft must be true, meaning what is incredibly likely, although not necessarily 100% guaranteed. So A says Lewis consistently outpaces every analyst, but we say Lewis is never faster than any analyst. And so A is unlikely to be the case based on the passage. So I would knock out A. D is a much better answer based on the passage. Tricky one. On to number 5. Howard watches over the outline prep with other managers while coordinators circle every page unless a reviewer blocks one, leaving researchers compiling summaries only when the scene stays unblocked. What is most strongly supported? A, researchers still compile summaries even when pages get blocked. B, researchers compile summaries whenever the scene remains unblocked. C, coordinators stop circling pages whenever managers start watching. Or D, Howard ignores outline prep entirely, leaving coordinators unsupervised. When you have your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark. So if you're looking at choices A and B, for example, both talking about researchers, the researchers are specifically only in the final part of the passage. So you can narrow your focus to looking at the last line specifically, the last clause specifically, when you are evaluating A and B. So don't get distracted by the first half of the passage when the second half is the only part that's relevant to choices A and B. So I see a lot of folks here saying B. B says researchers compile summaries whenever the scene remains unblocked. The passage says researchers compile only when scene remains unblocked, meaning if they are compiling, then the scene stays unblocked. So of course, B lines up with that part. The last half of this passage is a conditional that matches up well with B. So B is in fact the answer. Well done. Autumn, Linfully, Michael, Passion, Zakiah all saying B. B is in fact correct. Well done, folks. So we're 5 in so far. Out of these first 5, please drop in the chat how many you got right out of the number that you did. If you're 5 for 5, put that down. If you missed the first one and you're 4 for 4 or whatever you got, put that down. Give us a sense of where you're at so we can adjust difficulty for future classes. And by the way, folks, if you're finding this class helpful, we do these every single weekday, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 Central, 11 Pacific, same time as right now. Please spread the word. The only way this grows is through word of mouth. I don't do any advertising for these, and the algorithm doesn't really boost lives because they can't run ads during them. And so please spread the word. The more this grows, the more I'll expand these over time. Linfully says, I love your classes. Appreciate your support, Linfully. Thank you. I see a lot of folks doing great. Linfully's 5 for 5. Passion, Autumn, also 5 for 5. Fantastic. Folks, let's keep going on to number 6. Mike reviews a handful of chaotic mock trial drafts, and Jessica depends on whichever ones he's already touched to keep the partners calm in this late night suits style scramble. Which one of the following is most strongly supported? A, Mike reviews 0 drafts, while Jessica depends on vibes. B, Jessica depends on drafts that Mike already reviewed. C, Jessica depends on every draft Mike ever reviews. And D, Jessica tragically depends only on drafts Mike hasn't touched. When you have your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark. So the passage is saying Jessica depends on whichever ones he's already touched, meaning he already touched them, probably meaning if he touched them, he probably reviewed them. That's the most reasonable way to interpret this. Again, reading comp, different than logical reasoning. It's a softer must be true, meaning what is most likely to be the case. So you're not looking to get all nitty gritty technical saying, well, he touched it. Does that mean he reviewed it? If he touched it, he probably reviewed it. So B would be the best answer for this one. I see a lot of folks got it. Michael, Autumn, Linfully, Zakiah, Passion, all saying B. B is in fact correct. I see Linfully talks about tragically. Yeah, no indication of tragedy here. Not really contained within the passage at all. Nothing saying it's negative. And of course, we're saying that Jessica depends on those that he has touched, not those he hasn't touched. So B as in Bravo is in fact the answer. Well done. On to number 7. Lewis alone divvies up the frantic mound of case notes to bustling assistants, and Paulette works only from whatever he's already assigned to avoid another pink binder meltdown worthy of L. What is most strongly supported? A, assistants get notes from several people besides Lewis. B, Paulette freely mixes unassigned notes with Lewis's picks. C, Paulette's work depends only on notes Lewis assigned. Or D, L blocks assistants from ever using notes Lewis assigned. When you have your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark, but of course, do commit to an answer. So in the passage, they're saying Paulette works only from whatever he's already assigned. Only is a necessary condition indicator. So if Paulette works, then she's working from what he's already assigned, nothing else, meaning Paulette's work depends entirely or only on what Lewis assigned, matching up with choice C as in Charlie. So that is in fact the answer. I see Autumn, Linfully, Michael, Passion all saying C. Well done. C is in fact correct. Awesome. On to number 8. In a caffeine-heavy Better Call Saul sprint, Jimmy's quick draft passes trigger Kim's meticulous summary checks, which in turn push Howard into hurried outline prep to keep their mock hearing materials from collapsing. What is most strongly supported? A, Jimmy's draft work eventually leads Howard to prepare outlines. B, Howard never prepares outlines after Kim finishes her checks. C, Kim's summary checks happen before Jimmy passes any drafts. Or D, Howard theatrically refuses any outline prep after Kim. When you've got your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark, but do commit to an answer. So we have a chain reaction here. Jimmy's quick draft passes trigger Kim's checks, which in turn push Howard. So there's a chain reaction here, like a conditional statement or a domino effect. Jimmy to Kim to Howard. It's like A requires B requires C. So in turn, we can infer that A requires C. In this case, it's J requires K requires H, Jimmy to Kim to Howard. Therefore, Jimmy's work leads to what Howard does. So A is in fact the answer. Jimmy leads Howard to do something. What Jimmy does affects Howard indirectly by way of Kim. So A is in fact the answer. Michael, Linfully, Passion, Autumn all saying A. Fantastic. A is in fact the answer. On to number 9. Donna refuses to rush her draft sorting. Assistants outpace everyone with polished checks, and reviewers plod behind both groups, creating a glossy, legally blonde flow that holds the office together for now. Which is most strongly supported by the passage? A, reviewers finish their checks before any assistant starts. B, Donna is the fastest worker, outpacing every assistant. C, assistants dramatically trail behind reviewers in polished check marathons. Or D, assistants work faster than Donna and all reviewers. When you have your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark, but do commit to something. All right, we have some folks saying A initially, I think, but then we have other folks saying D, so I'll give you all a minute to evaluate. Looking at choice A, reviewers finish before any assistant starts. They're saying that reviewers plod behind both groups. So reviewers are later or maybe slower than the assistants, probably not finishing before them. Probably the assistants are completing or working before the reviewers do. So I would knock out A for that reason. They also say assistants outpace everyone, meaning they are faster than everybody, lining up with choice D as in Delta. Assistants work faster than Donna and all reviewers because they outpace everybody. So D as in Delta is going to be the answer here. I see some folks got it. Michael, Autumn, Passion, all saying D as in Delta. So D as in Delta is in fact correct. Well done. On to number 10. During a tightly wound suits emergency, Jessica pores over crucial final summaries. Managers lean exclusively on the ones she handles. Researchers follow those managerial choices, and anxious assistants touch them only after every prior step settles. Which one of the following is most strongly supported by the passage? A, assistants freely handle summaries Jessica never reviewed at all. B, assistants handle only summaries already processed by Jessica. C, managers often rely on summaries untouched by Jessica. Or D, assistants storm in first, then everyone else follows. When you have your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark, but do commit to something. This one maybe is a little bit tricky, so I'll give you all a minute to give it a shot. No rush, take your time. So look at the order, right? The order is key. So Jessica pores over final summaries. Managers do stuff. Researchers do stuff afterwards. So managers do only what Jessica did before. Researchers follow the managers, and assistants touch them only after everything else. So assistants work last. It goes Jessica, then managers, then researchers, then assistants. And note that the assistants, if you're looking at choices A and B, for example, A, B, and D actually all talking about assistants. So if you want to focus there, focus on the final sentence, final clause. Assistants touch them only after every prior step settles. So assistants are the last ones. So D saying assistants storm in first, that's not going to be the answer, right? They're going to be last, not first. So B as in Bravo, assistants handle only what Jessica did first. is going to be the answer because assistants are working after Jessica. There's a whole chain reaction, of course. Domino effect, like an earlier question we did. It goes Jessica, then managers, then researchers, then assistants. Assistants are last in the chain, so B as in Bravo is in fact the answer. Well done. See Michael, Autumn, Passion, Linfully all saying B as in Bravo. B as in Bravo is in fact correct. So well done, folks. We're 10 in so far. Out of these first 10, please update us in the chat how many you got right out of the number that you did. And by the way, folks, if you're looking for more personal support, you want to go deeper into the LSAT prep world beyond the drills that we do here on the live, you can book a free LSAT tutoring lesson with me at unpluggedprep.com/start. Link below the video on YouTube, link in my bio on TikTok. I'm happy to talk you through your LSAT prep plan, help you craft a plan of attack for your prep going forward whenever you're taking it January, February, April, June, or beyond. I'm happy to help you out. I see Passion got 10 for 10. Awesome. Linfully got 9 for 10. Also great. These questions are a little bit tougher than those we've done previously. Folks, out of curiosity, how are you liking the difficulty level of the questions today? Green circle is meant to be easy. Yellow meant to be intermediate, medium difficulty. Red, like the number 10, meant to be a little bit more difficult on the harder side. Autumn 10 for 10 also. Fantastic. You all are doing great. Let me know how you like today's questions. We can do similar in the future, or I can change it up if enough folks want me to change it up. I probably will, but let me know what you like. On to number 11. Donna handles some frantic summary checks, while Lewis stays buried in draft reviews, keeping the suit's bullpen from spiraling into another color-coded panic. Which one of the following is most strongly supported by the passage? A, Lewis dramatically manages every summary check and draft. B, Donna is responsible for some of the summaries. C, Donna never handles any summary checks in practice. Or D, the bullpen still panics because nobody checks summaries. When you have your answer, please drop it in the chat. A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark, but do commit to something. So if you're looking at A, for example, Lewis, you want to focus on the part of the passage talking about Lewis. All we know about him is that he's staying buried in draft reviews. Is he managing every summary check? We don't know. All we know about Lewis is he's managing the summary. All we know is that he's buried in draft reviews specifically, so you could knock out A for that reason. In contrast, B, Donna, if you're looking at B and C, talking about Donna specifically, you want to focus on the first half of the passage, ignoring the rest. Do we know that she never handles any summary checks? No, in fact, we know the opposite, that she's handling some. So you knock out choice C. Looking at B, Donna is responsible for some. We know that she's handling some, so she's probably responsible for them as well. That's the most reasonable inference we could make here. So B as in Bravo is in fact the answer. I see some folks got it. Awesome. Michael, Linfully, Autumn, Passion, Baju. Hope I'm saying that correctly. All saying B as in Bravo. B is in fact correct. Well done. On to number 12. Paulette is the lone schedule wrangler in this legally blonde morning as the assistants steer clear of approvals to prevent another glitter-soaked calendar disaster. Which one of the following is most supported? A, assistants secretly approve schedules to escape glitter chaos. B, Paulette avoids schedules while assistants handle every approval. C, assistants must approve every schedule to prevent glitter explosions. Or D, only Paulette handles schedule approvals, not the assistants. When you have your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark. And by the way, if you're looking at A and C, focusing on assistants, you want to narrow in on that portion of the passage. All we know about them is that they are steering clear of approvals. That's all we know about them. Are they secretly approving? In choice A, no reason to think that. Must they approve every schedule? No, in fact, of course, they are steering clear of approvals. We knock that out as well. Choice D is in Delta. Only Paulette handles them. Yes, we know she is the lone schedule wrangler. So D is in fact correct. D is in Delta. I see a lot of folks got it. We got here Michael, Autumn, Linfully, Passion, all saying D is in Delta. D is in Delta is in fact correct. Well done. On to number 13. Jimmy kicks off the tasks in a late night Better Call Saul rush, while Howard supervises before the assistants wrap things up to keep their mock trial prep from collapsing. What is most strongly supported? A, assistants finish tasks only after Jimmy has started them. B, Howard supervises only after assistants finish every task. C, Jimmy waits until assistants finish, then lazily starts tasks. Or D, assistants begin tasks while Jimmy naps through supervision. When you've got your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark. So we know from the passage, Jimmy kicks off the tasks before the assistants wrap things up. So Jimmy is before the assistants. I've got someone saying C, Jimmy waits until assistants finish, but that reverses the order, right? Jimmy's kicking things off, meaning he's starting before assistants wrap things up. So I would knock out choice C for that reason. And then, yeah, so I see some folks got it now. The answer is in fact A, assistants finish, they wrap things up only after Jimmy has started, meaning kicking things off. So A lines up with this passage. It's basically just a paraphrase, which so many inferences are, right? They're just paraphrases of what we have in the text. So I see here Michael's got it, choice A, Passion got it A, Linfully got it A. A is in fact correct, a little bit tougher. On to number 14. Donna's outline scramble forces Lewis into his report comparing routine, yet none of it proceeds unless the assistants have already set up their notes to dodge partner meltdown. What is most strongly supported? A, assistants add notes only after Donna completes every outline. B, Lewis compares reports freely even when notes are missing. C, Donna's outline work proceeds only when assistants' notes are ready. Or D, Donna and Lewis ignore assistants, improvising without any notes. When you've got your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark. Giving folks a minute here. And so I see some folks dropping answers in the chat. Looks like folks are all on the same page here. We've got Donna's work only proceeds if the assistants have already set up their notes. So Donna's work proceeds only when assistants' notes are ready. We have the word unless in the passage, unless meaning if not, introducing, or you could interpret it as indicating the necessary condition. Then we negate the other part of the passage in order to make it into the sufficient, meaning that what the assistants do is required for Donna to work, meaning her work proceeds only when assistants' notes are ready. If you're interested in going deeper on conditional statements, by the way, like the word unless, tomorrow's free class, same time, same place, is going to be on formal logic, so we can go into it more then, of course. But the answer here for this one is, in fact, C as in Charlie. I see a lot of folks got it. Autumn, Michael, Linfully, Passion, all saying choice C. C is, in fact, correct. Basically, the simplest thing I'll say right here is that the work the assistants are doing is necessary in order for Donna's work to happen. That's what we have the word unless indicating here. On to number 15. Kim K begins the draft work as two researchers push through reviews, while managers flag inconsistencies she relies on, and the assistants process them before any coordinators join the LSAT chaos. Which is most strongly supported by the passage? A, coordinators often inspect drafts nobody has yet reviewed. B, coordinators only see drafts that researchers have already reviewed. C, assistants process drafts even when managers flag nothing. Or D, Kim K shares drafts with coordinators before assistants process anything. This one's a bit harder, that's why we got the red circle here. When you have your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark, but do commit to an answer. Quick tip here, 3 out of the 4 choices involve the word coordinators, that group, so I would focus on the coordinators in the passage. We know that all this stuff is happening before any coordinators join the LSAT chaos. So the actions happening before the coordinators join, meaning the coordinators come later or afterwards in the sequence, they're late to the game, basically. So the other groups, like the researchers, the managers, the assistants are working prior to the coordinators working. So a choice like A, saying the coordinators often inspect things nobody yet reviewed, not going to be the answer because the coordinators work after everybody else. So A is the direct opposite of what we want. In contrast, choice B, as in Bravo, is telling us they only see stuff researchers already worked on. So B, as in Bravo, is in fact the answer. Michael, Autumn, Linfully, Passion, all saying B. B is in fact correct. Well done. By the way, folks, we're 15 questions in so far. Out of these 15, please update us on how many you got right out of the number that you did. Give us a sense of where you're at. If you're 15 for 15, 13 for 13, whatever you did, out of how many you did, how many you got right, update us so we have a sense of how to adjust the difficulty going forward. And by the way, folks, we do these free classes every weekday, same time, same place, 2 Eastern, 1 Central, 11 Pacific. If you find these helpful, again, please spread the word. Share the link in your group chats, your Discords, your forums, wherever you know others studying for the LSAT on your socials. I really appreciate it. The more this grows, the more I will expand these over time. See, Passion's got all 15. Autumn got all 15. Linfully's 14 for 15. Fantastic. Super high accuracy. That's great considering the difficulty of what we're doing. Love to see it. On to number 16. A late night suits scramble has Donna paired with at least one Lewis, and one Donna ends up checking summaries to keep the partners calm. Which is most strongly supported by the passage? A, no summary checking Donna is paired with any Lewis, Binder's riot. B, at least one Lewis pairs with a summary checking Donna. C, every Lewis pairs only with non-summary checking Donnas, sparkle meltdown. Or D, all Donnas refuse to check summaries during this scramble, chaos. When you've got your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark, but do commit to an answer. A little bit of a crazy question, by the way, but that can make it sometimes easier, sometimes harder. Think of these, of course, like variables if you want to. And keep in mind the wrong answers are just ridiculous to make the others harder to spot. But if you look at the right answer in isolation, it may actually seem ridiculously simple in hindsight, right? So at least one Lewis, choice B as in Bravo. We have that exactly in the passage, right? Donna's paired with at least one Lewis. So B, at least one Lewis pairs with a summary checking Donna. Pretty reasonable, pretty moderate, incredibly likely based on the passage. Of course, the others are all more extreme, right? So A says no, pretty strong. No meaning none, meaning zero. C, every, meaning all, pretty strong. D, also saying all, pretty strong as well. The answer is, in fact, B as in Bravo, super moderate. And by the way, in reading comp, you want to gravitate towards more moderate answers, more likely to have been supported by the stimulus or the passage than more extreme answers would be. I see you all got it. Fantastic. Welcome, Anne. Welcome, Shakira. Y'all are doing great here. On to number 17. A meticulous, legally blonde morning shows one Paulette handling more scheduling entries than any L, while every Warner handles fewer than any L, creating anxious courthouse chatter. Which is most strongly supported? A, every Warner handles more entries than every L, chaos ensues. B, all L's handle more entries than Paulette's meticulous sparkle schedule. C, one Paulette handles more entries than every Warner. Or D, no Paulette handles more entries than any Warner, Binder's faint. When you've got your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark, but do commit to an answer. Again, these are pretty ridiculous, but the wrong answers are a little bit going to be more extreme. When you're doing anything inference related, all else being equal, you want to gravitate towards more moderate language because more moderate language is more likely to have been required by the passage than more extreme language would be. In other words, the most reasonable inference will be more moderate or make smaller claims than otherwise. When you're in doubt, gravitate towards the more moderate language, like one or at least one or some. Hint, hint, right? So the answer here, of course, is in fact choice C as in Charlie, one Paulette. See a ton of you got it. Michael, Anne, Linfully, Shakira, Autumn, Passion, all saying C. Of course, one Paulette handles more scheduling than any L. and Warner handles fewer than any L. So Paulette does more than L does more than Warner. Again, a sort of chain reaction or a sequence here. Paulette does more than L does more than Warner. So by translation, Paulette does more than Warner. So C is the answer. Well done. On to number 18. In a careful Better Call Saul workflow, any Mike who prepares a document sends it to Kim, who passes it to Chuck, who records it for Howard during quiet case prep. Which one of the following is most strongly supported? A, some document Mike prepares never gets recorded for Howard, meltdown. B, no document Mike prepares is recorded for Howard, binders scream. C, documents recorded for Howard bypass both Kim and Chuck entirely. Or D, each document Mike prepares is eventually recorded for Howard. When you've got your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark, but do commit to an answer. So again, same deal. You got an idea, right? It's a sequence, right? Mike to Kim, Kim to Chuck, Chuck to Howard. Therefore, starts with Mike, ends up with Howard. D as in Delta is in fact correct. You all got it. Doing great. Linfully, Michael, Shakira, Anne, Passion, Autumn, all saying D as in Delta. D as in Delta is in fact correct. Well done. On to number 19. A frantic suits assignment shows a single Jessica with multiple Donnas, and any Donna assigned to her is monitored by a Lewis who ends up listed as support to avoid binder chaos. What's most strongly supported? A, at least one Lewis monitors a Donna assigned to Jessica. B, no Lewis monitors any Donna assigned to Jessica. Binders explode. C, every Lewis ignores Donnas assigned to Jessica's frantic assignment. Or D, all Donnas assigned to Jessica remain completely unmonitored. Chaos reigns. When you've got your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark, but do commit to an answer. And someone was commenting that why are we doing logic games if they're not on the LSAT? So this is not logic games, by the way. These are a little bit formal in nature, but inferences, of course, logic itself is across the entire LSAT, both in logical reasoning and reading comprehension. Some of the harder questions are a bit more formal in nature. These chain reactions, these inferences appear throughout the exam regardless of context. And so, of course, we've got the more moderate language, at least one Lewis, at least one. Moderate, look at the others. B says no, C says every, D says all, a lot more extreme in nature. At least one Lewis, monitors, of course. Donna is monitored by a Lewis, we know that from the passage. And assigned to Jessica is also in there as well, right? So a Donna assigned to Jessica, we have that as well. A single Jessica with multiple Donnas. Any Donna assigned to her, meaning Jessica, so it's all in there as well. First half of the passage, the binder chaos thing is just there to throw you off. The answer is in fact A. A lot of you got it. Awesome. Michael, Shakira, Linfully, Autumn, and Passion all saying A. A is in fact correct. Well done. On to number 20, getting a little bit harder, presumably, with a red circle there. 20 says, during a tense Legally Blonde rush, 2 L's prepare reports for Paulette, and any report tied to Paulette gets checked by Warner and compiled by Paulette's assistant to avert pink-coded meltdown. What's most strongly supported? A, no L has any report checked by Warner, chaos. B, at least 2 L's have reports checked by Warner. C, exactly 1 L has a report checked by Warner. Or D, no report tied to Paulette is checked by Warner. When you've got your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark. Again, note the trend, more moderate language, more likely to have been supported by the passage. So all else being equal, if you're not sure where to start with the most moderate choice. Anything saying every, all, any, always, or on the flip side, saying none, no, or never. I would not start there. I'd start with the sum, the at least one, or in this case, at least 2. At least 2 L's, pretty moderate. And we know from the first line, there are 2 L's. Excuse me, so 2 L's prepare reports for Paulette. Anything tied to Paulette gets checked by Warner. So by translation, 2 L's prepare reports that are checked by Warner. That's what B as in Bravo says. B as in Bravo is in fact correct. Linfully, Michael, Autumn, Anne, Passion, Justin, Shakira all saying B as in Bravo. B as in Bravo is in fact correct. Well done. We're 20 in so far. Out of these first 20, please drop in the chat how many you got right out of the number that you did. And by the way, if you want to go over harder LSAT questions or you want some more personalized guidance and support in your LSAT prep, I'm offering free LSAT tutoring lessons, private, one-on-one. You can meet with me via Zoom and talk through your LSAT prep plan. I'll be happy to help you out. You can book that free lesson with me at unpluggedprep.com/start. Link below the video on YouTube, link in my bio on TikTok. I'm happy to help you out. You're all doing great. 20 out of 20, 19 out of 20, 5 out of 5. Awesome. Y'all are rocking it. On to number 21. In a mildly chaotic Suits style afternoon, analyst Donna checks case summaries while reviewer Lewis digs through the same stack, all to keep the internal review process from feeling completely chaotic. What is most strongly supported? A, Donna dramatically refuses, insisting summaries should self-audit overnight. B, Lewis lets the summaries unionize instead of actually checking them. C, every summary escapes unreviewed, sparking a full-scale paperwork rebellion. Or D, at least one of Donna or Lewis checks summaries. When you've got your answer, please drop it in the chat. A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark, but do commit to an answer. Commit now. Get it wrong now so that you don't get it wrong on test day. Again, look towards the more moderate language. C as in Charlie saying every, pretty extreme. Aside from, of course, the fact that C says rebellion, paperwork rebellion, not at all supported by the text. But we know that analyst Donna is checking summaries. Reviewer Lewis digs through the same stack. So they're both looking at stuff. They're both looking at paperwork. So the answer is, in fact, D as in Delta. A lot of you got it. Awesome. Michael, Autumn, Shakira, Linfully, Passion, Justin, Anne, all saying D. D is, in fact, correct. Well done. On to number 22. In a meticulously organized, legally blonde scheduling scramble, coordinator Jessica handles every approval, while assistant Paulette, surrounded by glittery pens, stays completely away from the official decision clicks. What's most strongly supported? A, only assistants like Paulette approve schedules in this scramble. B, someone other than an assistant approves the schedules. C, no one approves schedules. The calendar allegedly updates itself magically. Or D, Paulette secretly overrides Jessica, personally finalizing every single schedule. When you've got your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark, but do commit to something. I see some folks starting to answer here. Awesome. And so note that a choice like C, no one approves schedules. It's magically, of course, nothing magic in the passage, nothing saying that nobody approves it, just that assistant Paulette is not the one doing it, meaning someone else is doing it. So out of the choices here, B as in Bravo is the best supported, most likely, someone other than an assistant, because we know Paulette is the assistant, she's not doing it. So B as in Bravo, Michael, Autumn, Shakira, and Passion all saying B as in Bravo. B is in fact correct, most reasonable assumption here based on the text. Doing great, folks. On to 23. During a late night Better Call Saul prep, Jimmy's draft reviews send Chuck into detailed log checks, and Kim's summary compiling routine always ends with those summaries carefully recorded for the case file. What is most strongly supported? A, some drafts Jimmy reviews never lead to recorded summaries. B, Kim skips recording, letting summaries wander lawless through corridors. C, any draft Jimmy reviews ultimately ends as recorded summaries. Or D, Chuck checks logs randomly, ignoring every draft Jimmy reviews. When you've got your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark, but do commit to something. So again, chain reaction right. Jimmy's reviews send Chuck into log checks, and then those summaries go into Kim's summary compiling routine, right? So chain reaction here once again. What Jimmy does ends as a summary, as a recorded summary is the chain reaction. That's the domino effect here. So C is in Charlie is in fact the answer. Jimmy to Chuck to Kim. C is in Charlie. I see a lot of folks got it. Autumn, Michael, Passion, Shakira, Anne, all saying C. C is in fact correct. Well done. On to number 24. In a tense suits review session, assistant Donna ranks a couple of reports, and manager Lewis carefully mirrors or raises those rankings, never marking any report below the level she already assigned. What is most strongly supported? A, Lewis never ranks reports lower than assistant Donna. B, Lewis sometimes ranks reports far below Donna's scores. C, Donna refuses to rank anything, leaving Lewis theatrically panicked. Or D, managers always rank reports below assistants to appear dramatically tougher. When you've got your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark, but let us know where you're at. So we know that Lewis carefully mirrors or raises those rankings, never marking any report below the level she already assigned. So Lewis mirrors, meaning he equals, or he raises them, but he never goes down, never ranks reports lower. So choice A articulates that idea, paraphrases the passage. So A is the answer. Michael, Autumn, Anne, Passion, Shakira all saying A. A is in fact correct. Well done. On to number 25, a little bit tougher now. During a dramatic Kim K LSAT prep crunch, two analysts flag every inconsistency. A coordinator channels those flags to a reviewer, and an assistant pointedly avoids touching any of the flagged material. What is most strongly supported? A, assistants originate several inconsistencies later forwarded to the reviewer. B, coordinators originate inconsistencies that bypass analysts entirely and mysteriously. C, reviewers create most inconsistencies that bypass analysts entirely and mysteriously. C, reviewers create most inconsistencies during chaotic, overdramatic editing bursts. Or D, only analysts originate inconsistencies that reviewers later receive. Bit of word salad there, quite a mouthful. So when you got your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark, but do commit to an answer. We've got a lot of folks dropping answers in the chat here. Awesome, love to see it. We've got folks saying D, Anne, Michael, Passion, Shakira, Autumn, all saying D as in Delta. D is in fact correct. Only analysts originate inconsistencies that reviewers later receive. We know two analysts flag every inconsistency, meaning they are the ones who are doing it. That is the most reasonable assumption here. No reason to think anybody else is doing it. They're the sole people mentioned here. So difference again between reading comp and logical reasoning. Here we're looking for the most reasonable assumption based on the text. You have a little bit more wiggle room here than you do in logical reasoning here. And of course, you can also work by elimination. So we're 25 in so far. Out of these 25, please drop in the chat how many you got right out of the number that you did. I see Passion got all 25 right. Fantastic, 100% accuracy, Passion. You're killing it, love to see it. You all are doing great. Anne is 10 for 10. Autumn is 25 for 25 as well. 100%, you all are doing awesome on these. Well done. And by the way, folks, again, we do these every single weekday, same time, same place, 2 Eastern, 1 Central, 11 Pacific, on YouTube and TikTok. If you find these helpful, again, please spread the word, share the link. The only way this grows is through word of mouth. The more this grows, the more I'll expand it over time. On to 26. Donna handles the summary checks, while Lewis focuses on report reviews, a focused suit-style rhythm meant to keep their late-night workload from feeling completely unmanageable. What is most strongly supported? A, Lewis single-handedly dominates all summary checks and reports. B, Donna is responsible for the summary checks. C. Donna and Lewis evenly trade summaries and report reviews. Or D. Neither summary checks nor report reviews occur at all. When you've got your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark. So we know from the passage, Donna handles the summary checks. She's the one who does that. Most reasonable inference is that she is responsible for those checks. We know she does the checks, Lewis does the reviews, so C's and Charlie, not supported, no reason to think that they're evenly trading. In fact, they're meant to be separate, right? Donna does one, Lewis does the other. The answer is B as in Bravo. Michael, Autumn, Shakira, Edward, and Passion all saying B as in Bravo. B is in fact correct, well done. On to 27. Kim Wexler oversees schedule approvals, but relies on Francesca to assemble outlines and Howard to supply data, a tightly organized Better Call Saul style workflow, preventing the office from sinking into scheduling confusion. What is most strongly supported? A. Kim manages outlines, while Francesca alone approves all schedules. B. Howard's data is optional for Kim's schedule approvals. C. Francesca assembles outlines without contributing to any approvals. Or D. Kim's schedule approvals depend on Howard supplying data. When you've got your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark, but do commit to an answer. So we know from the text that Kim oversees, but relies on both Francesca and Howard. She relies on them, meaning she depends on them. What they do is necessary for her work. Lining up with D as in Delta, Kim depends on Howard. So D is in fact correct. A lot of you got it. Awesome. Michael, Shakira, Edward, Autumn, Passion, and Joe all saying D. D is in fact correct. Well done. On to 28. L alone reviews the drafts and also compares notes. So Warner's comparisons depend on Paulette compiling the summaries, a glitter-coated, legally blonde routine meant to keep their mock trial prep from losing structure. What is most strongly supported? A. Paulette must compile summaries for Warner's comparisons. B. L does not review the drafts or compare notes. C. Warner's comparisons never involve Paulette's compiled summaries at all. Or D. Paulette never compiles any of the summaries. When you've got your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark. So we know from the text that Warner's comparisons depend on Paulette compiling the summaries. So Warner depends on Paulette, Warner relies on Paulette, and Paulette must do her work in order for Warner to do his work. So A is in fact supported. That is the dependency listed there, so A is the answer. And I see a ton of folks got it. Awesome. Michael, Autumn, Shakira, Bajo, Passion, and Edward all saying A. A is in fact correct. Well done. On to number 29. In a tense suits review sprint, Mike never ranks tasks above Jessica, while Harvey places his work above hers, and Rachel falls below Mike, a delicate ordering to maintain binder peace. What is most strongly supported? A. Rachel's tasks outrank Harry's in this ordering. B. Mike's tasks are ranked above Jessica's for now. C. Rachel's tasks are ranked below Jessica's tasks. Or D. Jessica's tasks fall below both Mike's and Rachel's. When you've got your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark, but do commit to an answer. And if you have to take notes or draw a diagram for this one, totally understood. You do get scratch paper on the LSAT, by the way. And there are some reading comp passages that maintain this sort of ordering where it's a little bit difficult to disentangle. If you want a tough passage like that, check out the riddled basins of attraction. Riddled basins of attraction, one of the hardest reading comp passages of all time, involves a little bit of this sort of ordering here if you're looking to challenge yourself a little bit. So I see some folks starting to answer. I'll give you all another minute here. And by the way, if you're looking for a place of where to start, I mean, you could look for any individual who's mentioned multiple times or more than others. So for example, Mike is only mentioned twice in the choices. Jessica's mentioned 3 times. Rachel's also mentioned 3 times. Harvey only mentioned once. And so you're going to solve it more efficiently, faster, if you start by looking at someone who's mentioned more frequently in the passage. So I might start by either looking at Rachel or looking at Jessica in particular, just to speed things up a little bit. And I see a lot of folks got it. Noteworthy, of course, that choice C is in Charlie, mentions both Rachel and Jessica. We know Rachel falls below Mike, and Mike never ranks above Jessica. So Rachel is below Jessica's tasks. Choice C, as in Charlie, is in fact correct. I see a lot of folks got it. I see Michael, Shakira, Edward, Bajot, and all saying C. C is in fact correct. Well done. Tricky one. On to number 30. More than one analyst checks data in a careful Kim K. LSAT style review, but one avoids reviewer verification, while another relies on reviewer and assistant logging, a quiet exception that still keeps the records organized. What is most strongly supported? A, no analyst relies on any reviewer or assistant logging. B, at least one analyst depends on reviewer and assistant logging. C, exactly one analyst checks data in this review. Or D, every analyst must route results through identical verification steps. When you've got your answer, please drop it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, just drop a question mark, but do commit to an answer. Again, look for more moderate language, more likely to have been supported or guaranteed by the passage than more extreme language would be. So A saying no, C and D saying every or exactly, a bit too extreme. B as in Bravo saying at least one, a lot more moderate, more likely to be correct or supported. And of course, B as in Bravo is in fact correct. There is at least one analyst who depends on reviewer and assistant logging. They say to us in the passage in the middle, another relies on reviewer and assistant logging. So another is the at least one. So B as in Bravo is in fact correct. Well done. We got Edward, Shakira, Bajot, Michael, Passion, Autumn, all saying B as in Bravo. B as in Bravo is in fact correct. Well done. Please, we're 30 in so far. Out of these 30, please drop in the chat how many you got right. Out of the number that you did, give us a sense of where you're at accuracy-wise so I know how to adjust difficulty going forward. And by the way, folks, if we haven't had the chance to meet personally one-on-one, you can book a free meeting with me via Zoom, unpluggedprep.com/start. I'll be happy to help you out. Whether you're taking the LSAT in January, February, April, or June, I'll be happy to help you craft your personal action plan for success to help you reach your goal score on the LSAT whenever you're taking it. Tomorrow, we're covering formal logic, drills, same time, same place, here on YouTube or TikTok, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 Central, 11 Pacific. I'll see you all tomorrow. Appreciate your support. Please spread the word if you find these helpful, and I'll see you all then. Have a good one all. Take care.